Well, hello. All right. It says I'm live. Where's my little clock is ticking. We're here. Welcome to the third ever Upcycles live stream. I'm still just kind of goofing off, trying different things. Still haven't told anybody. Nobody's watching this live. Somebody pops up, say hi. I'll chat with you or answer questions or whatever. But I'm doing this one during the day. I did the other ones at night, and so you can see my features a lot more clearly. I also might be sitting closer to the screen. And let's see what centers me better there. And basically, it's the day before Thanksgiving. Monday, I had a couple customers. I kind of made my money for the week on Monday. I had 0 customers in here all day yesterday, and it's kind of a bummer. I kind of goofed off, and then today there's no way I'm going to want to stay late and do this at night because there's no reason to. It's a holiday, and I deserve a holiday as much as anybody. Still have my dog bag on, and then so I'm gonna try this during the day, knock it out, get something done, and then I've got a bike. Can we get it? Well, you can't really tell because my truant stand is in the way, but I've got a bike in the stand there that I'm gonna finish. But it's just a used bike that I'm gonna resell. It's not for a customer or anything. So if I don't get it done, it doesn't matter at all. So I don't know. Just figured this is like a way to be productive today and move something forward. So I'm going to. So my idea today. Okay, one slight addendum to last week. Mock Wheel is another popular brand that somebody asked me about. Like, I don't know, a few days after I did that video, and I'm like, oh, I actually just talked about all these brands, but I totally forgot them. So I've built a few mock wheels. I haven't done any tune-ups on them. I haven't had any come back for service. So I have no real knowledge of how they perform 1,000 miles in, 2,000 miles in, that kind of thing. But having built them brand new, I'm picturing 2 different people who bought them, and what both of them had in common is they were like large men. And I'm not trying to be rude about that. I'm just trying to describe a person, right? There's a lot of factors in like how a bicycle is going to behave on the road. The size and weight of the rider is absolutely a factor there. A person with longer legs has longer levers. They're going to push harder on the crank. And a person with more body mass that's more weight on everything. That's it's more work the spokes have to do. Whatever. So it's harder on the tires, like literally everything. So it is a factor, and it is something you kind of have to talk about. And I try to just be like sensitive to just kind of the fact that like we have different bodies, and most of us have some sort of self-consciousness about our bodies. So most of us are not like totally jacked, sexy people. Most of us are kind of schlubby. And but anyway, so I assume they're kind of specifically marketing to that crowd, but I don't know. Let's get the screen share going. I want to share. But maybe I'm wrong about that, or maybe a reviewer said that about them. I'm not seeing anything immediately that says that, but it's definitely like a big, beefy machine. It kind of, to me, feels more like a little bit more like a motorcycle, a little bit less like a bicycle. They're pretty squishy. They're very heavy. They are heavier than most of the e-bikes that I've worked on, for sure. For like a non-cargo e-bike, they're very heavy, and just riding them, it doesn't really have the feel of like a bicycle to me for what I'm looking for out of a bike. They really don't do it, but they did seem to be like reasonably well made. And then they actually have a shop it's not really in the city, but it's in the Portland area. Where's my tab? It came up. Can we go to maps? Mock Wheel eBikes, here it is, this Boone's Ferry Road. Boom, over there. So they actually have a shop, so you'd have to go through them for any more help with them. But I just wanted to throw it in there because they're another fairly popular brand that I do have some experience with. And then just a remind. Oh, and then I made my thumbnail the new Rad Power Bikes Rad City 5, Rad City 5 Plus. Sorry, I got distracted and clicked on another thing. And so the Rad City is available again. I talked about that last week as a bike I've done a lot of that was currently not available. And then just a quick refresher. Thing that keeps me in business and that will allow me to continue to do things like this are I'm an affiliate for Rad, so I get paid if you buy a bike, but you have to buy it through my website. So upcyclespdx.com, UPCYCLES P is in Peter, D is in dog, X is in X-ray.com/order rad, ORDERRAD. You could also just go to upcyclespdx.com and figure it out from there. You would go to Rad Power or in a Rad. It's already loaded. But then if you click this link, boom, you can't see the search bar, I don't think, or like the URL on your screen, but it has my code in there. You get $50 off. I did confirm last week that, while talking to a customer, that it'll give you the $50 off even if a bike is on sale. So do it, and it helps track that you came through me. But then you could go down, get the Rad City 5+ step through. There it is. They call the color burgundy. It looks kind of cranberry sauce to me. And there it is, beautiful bike. And can we make it bigger? Sure we can. And then I don't know if you'll be able to tell from the photos, but it should have Tektro brakes, though actually that photo does not look like that, so maybe I'm wrong. You can't really tell. Well, if it has the nut brakes, then it's the same as the last one. But if it has the Tektro brakes, that's definitely an upgrade over the previous. And I believe it has an upgraded controller as well. But I haven't seen one in person yet, so I'm just repeating what was told to me. Take it with a grain of salt. But okay, so then what I wanted to do today is go to my Google Drive, and hopefully this doesn't reveal anything too, I don't know. There's a bunch of files. Maybe you'll learn something from there that I'll wish you hadn't. But then I'm going to try to make a slideshow here. And now that is sharing the wrong tab. So I'm going to close that tab. That kicks you back to just me. I'm going to hit share screen again. Untitled Station, Google Slides. Boom, there it is. Okay. So I'm literally going to just make this up as we go. And probably nobody's going to pop up in the chat. If you do, I'm going to be in another tab. I might not see you, but I'll try to click back to this one periodically. And I'm just going to work on this as I go. It's 12:04 p.m. right now, West Coast time. So I'm going to try to have this done around like 1. And if I don't quite finish it, that's fine. But so our title is, I like to use the lowercase e, eBike Basics. We could call it eBike eBasics. Why not? And by Matthew Upcycles Mendez. Cool. Great job. And then, will that add a slide? Cool. So the kind of how I'm making this up. I have no draft on this. So this might be a total waste of time, but let's find out together. But so kind of how I think about it first is kind of like, how do I want to call this? Like, let's call it like this, mapping the bike industry. So sort of, I know for me, like a thing I learned in school were like kind of hierarchies and sort of the idea of like categorizing things, breaking things down into like different like constituent categories that add up to sort of your whole picture of the whole thing. So that's kind of how I imagine doing this. So we have bicycles, and then we have e-bikes. This is kind of an important first tier of this thing. So let's do this. I want you to be centered just because it makes more sense to me. And at this point, I feel different people are going to feel differently, but at this point, I feel that those are basically your kind of top level categories. I just am never going to be happy with this. Let's put you all the way over here. Cool. You know, like in an earlier era, I think what I would have said is like you have the bike industry, and then that kind of tiers down into like mountain bikes and road bikes, you know, and then like, of course, there's all kinds of things in between there, right? Well, but they still, like, you have road bike brake cables, you have mountain bike brake cables, you have I don't know, road bike tire standards, mountain bike tire standards, that kind of thing. Those categories are pretty mixed up at this point between like not just hybrids, but like gravel bikes. I guess those are the big ones, kind of like all road bikes, sort of different tour. Like at one point, I think a touring bike was generally like a road bike that had like some specific features, maybe like a longer wheelbase, maybe clearance for bigger tires. But it was basically a road bike. Mounts for different racks, that kind of thing. And then sort of where we're at with it now, I mean, there are touring bikes that are basically mountain bikes, you know, in terms of like what brakes they have on them, how the frame is designed, what handlebars they have on them. So like those categories are really mixed up. And I also feel like e-bikes have become such a huge part of the industry that really it seems to me very clear that if I'm trying to at a top level take all of the bike industries that exist, all of the bicycles as they exist, and break them down into two categories, I would say bicycles, the e-bikes. Those are your two big categories. And the big divider there is the e-bike has an electric motor. The bicycle does not. The bicycle is human powered. Now, of course, things are always more complicated than, you know, this is like a way to kind of take this very complicated thing and try to simplify it into something. There are like bicycles that are modified to run on gasoline, you know, whatever. I'm not going to deal with them. I don't do that. Back in central Pennsylvania, it was like a pretty common thing, and you'd see like straight up like 15-year-old kids like ride on the highway on them and stuff. It's insane. You're gonna die. Don't do it. And they're putting them on like the worst like Walmart like Mongoose bikes, and then they buy this like gas kit on eBay and convert the bike, and like it's not. Please don't do that. And anyway, so bicycles and e-bikes are our top two categories here, and then we're going to look. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong screen. So here, I want to take this. And then here, we're going to talk just about e-bikes now. So among e-bikes, and you can break this down different ways, but I'm going to break it down chiefly into two. You have mid-drive. Whoops. Jeez, everything is hard. Well, that's not what I was trying to do. Come on. Okay, I want you. I'm trying to control copy you. I'm trying to control V. Why is it doing that? It's not copying it. Let's try this. It's straight up. I don't know why I can't copy that. It was letting me do it before. Can I duplicate it? What if I just insert text box? Cool. Yeah, and that's the same font. Awesome. Okay. So mid-drive and hub drive. And so what these refer to is where your motor is on your bike. So mid-drive, let's try it this way so I'm not messing with like clicking around too much. Mid-drive, the motor is at the crank / bottom bracket. Let's make this a bit bigger. I'm glad I marked this not for kids. Okay. Oh, this is going to frustrate me. Can we just move you up and get you out of the way? Cool. And then there we go. All right. So your motor's at your crank or your bottom bracket. Hub drive. The motor is in the wheel. Oh, it's so... Let's try this again. This is why you prepare ahead of time, but I didn't want to. Okay, boom. All right, there we go. Okay. Hub drive. Motor is in the wheel. So the hub refers to the center part of a wheel. I'm going to go grab one quick to show you. Actually, so this is the front wheel off the bike that I showed you is in my stand that I intend to finish later on today. So this is the hub. This is the hub. This silver part here that I'm touching with my finger, that's the hub. These are spokes. That's the rim. You can't see that. This is the rim here, the silver part. Black part's the tire. This is the quick release in the middle. This little lever is how you take the wheel on and off the bike. But this center part of the wheel, that's the hub. I think a lot of people know that, but some people don't, and best not to assume anything. So, and then the crank in the bottom bracket here, how am I going to show you that easily? I'm not. Let's just skip it. Just Google it. The bottom bracket is like the center part of the bike. So you have the pedals. Everyone knows where the pedals are. They're like offset by that. They each have these like arms coming off of them. And then they connect in the middle at the bottom bracket. It's the bearing system that allows the pedals to rotate around the frame of the bike. Bike stays stationary. Crank rotates. That's thanks to the bottom bracket. So there's advantages and disadvantages to each of these. So with a mid-drive, you get to have normal bicycle wheels. Why did that get so small? Let's do this. Let's make our window bigger. And let's preemptively do that on here too. So on your mid-drive, you get to have normal bicycle wheels. On the hub drive, you're going to have a heavy motor wheel. So why does that matter? For repairs, a normal bicycle wheel is like generally a lot easier to fix a flat tire on. When it comes time to take the wheel on and off the bike, you might have like quick release wheels, or a simple nut and bolt. They're generally going to be simpler. Now, plenty of those hub drive bikes, mid-drive bikes, normal is a relative term. Plenty of them have like belt. They're also belt drive, which I talked about belt drive a little bit in the last video. I don't want to get into it again right now. But it's a little bit extra work to like get that set up correctly. They might have internally geared hubs, and then also any e-bike worth anything has disc brakes on it, which, if you know what you're doing, it's better. But if you're trying to do your own work and you don't have those skills already, the learning curve on disc brakes is pretty high. So it normal. It might just be a normal, meaning like you have a derailleur, you have a free hub wheel with a cassette on it. You take it on and off the bike with a through axle or a quick release, and it's not that hard. Relatively speaking, it's not that hard. You might have other things that do complicate it, but it's more like a bicycle wheel. With the hub drive, that motor wheel is going to be really heavy. It's also wired into the bike. So fixing a flat on it is just a much bigger chore. It's how to think about this. It's definitely harder than a normal flat fix. Actually, getting the tire on and off might be about the same. It might actually be harder too, just depending on what it is. Some of those like big fat tires can be pretty frustrating, but whatever, that's life. The hard part really is just that you have a motor, and then the motor is wired into the bike. And so a bike mechanic who's been like working in bike shops for the last, let's say, 15 years, kind of before the e-bike thing was happening, they're not going to be excited to see it, generally speaking. And so you will find shops. There's a shop nearby. I'm not going to say their name. I'm not trying to call them out or anything. I'm just repeating what I read on their website. They will not service a bike with a motor wheel. Upcycles will. It's honestly like probably like a big part of why this business has survived, because we're like pretty small fish compared to some of the other shops. Or there's several much larger shops like nearby to us, and I think just because like we will do work that they don't want to do is kind of what's allowed us to keep afloat. Shout out to 7-Eleven who provided my coffee. The 7-Eleven at 16th and Killingsworth is probably the business I frequent the most of all of the businesses I go to throughout a typical week. I love it there. Great staff, great management. They're right over here. Check them out if you're in the neighborhood and you're looking for a hot dog or a Slurpee or a coffee or some Mr. Beast peanut butter and chocolate, whatever the hell you're doing. Get it there. Beer, wine, cigarettes. They have it all. Batteries, dog treats. I'm trying to think what else I've bought there. Toothbrushes. They've got what you need. But anyway, so that's a big trade-off there. But then here's some other trade-offs. With your mid-drive, generally speaking, they're going to be more expensive. And with your hub drives, generally less expensive. There are exceptions to this. There are some lower cost mid-drive bikes. There was a bike brand called Bluebird that I have a little bit of experience with. They use a Bafang mid-drive. It's like a cheaper mid-drive. You really don't see it on any other bikes. Or I really haven't seen it on any other bikes. I shouldn't say you don't. I don't know what you're looking at, but you will see them on I've seen this Bafang mid-drive on this bike called a Bluebird. It was kind of comparable in price to a lot of the hub drive bikes, at least to my memory. I'm not going to look them up right now. For sure, it felt like a cheaper mid-drive. This was in a shop that had a lot of Bosch bikes on the floor. Bosch is, to my opinion, and I think widely regarded as like sort of the top of the mid-drive. Some other, the Shimano Steps is also good. And then there was one called Bros or Brose that I used to see around, and I really don't anymore. I don't know what the story is there. I could look it up. I haven't. But the Bosch is kind of the one. That Bafang mid-drive, it was louder. It was pretty torquey, like not a smooth power transfer, kind of like jerks your head back when the motor kicks on. And wasn't super popular. Bafang, the same brand, is by far the most common hub drive motor out there. A lot of probably me. I don't know this for sure, but maybe all of those brands I talked about last week, and maybe Mach Wheel too. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up right now, but a lot of those direct to consumer e-bike brands, they might not be branded as Bafang, but that is a Bafang motor on the majority of them. And it's a pretty solid product, but it is a cheaper thing. And so, and what's the trade-off there? Well, it's got that heavy motor wheel. It's just going to be more expensive to get a flat fixed when you need to. Also, I kind of skipped over this. When you're out on a ride and you get a flat on that motor wheel, your ride's probably over. I mean, you could, in theory, carry what you need to fix it. You need a tube, tire levers, and a pump. A lot of them are like these fat tire bikes, so it's going to be pretty hard to pump it up with like a little, handheld pump, but you could do it. Or you could at least get it good enough to get yourself to like a gas station and then get real air in your tires. But a lot of people don't. And like if you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, you've got like a big, heavy, awkward thing that's not going to roll well that you have to like get off the trail. A flat on a mid-drive bike isn't going to be like more fun, really, but it's still a bummer. But potential for like roadside repair is a little bit higher. And then yeah, I don't know. I mean, generally I don't know. There's all kinds of things out there, but a lot of the mid-drive bikes do have like fairly standard, relatively skinny, but not that skinny, still like 2 inches, but still, where's my hand? Still like that, but red versus like this on some of those those hub drive bikes, some of those rad power bikes have, really big tires. So that's going to be like an easier thing to fix on the side of the road if you have to as well. And then, but to be clear, both bikes are plenty heavy. It's not the case that a mid-drive bike is like a lightweight e-bike. E-bikes are heavy. Good luck finding a lightweight e-bike. They are out there. You're going to pay a lot of money for them, and they're going to have like less power, but they're out there. And then one big exception to the hub drive being less expensive, there's a bike called Stromer. I believe they're Swiss or something like that. And I just saw that their sales in North America are so poor that they've ended North American operations. But a place I used to work dealt them, and they were a hub drive bike that was really, really high end, really, really nice, really smooth power transfer, really like good hub drive. And then the other thing I wanted to add about the hub drive bikes is I'm going to put this in caps. Rear wheel only is generally where, let's make that bold. Yeah, that's right, please. You can earlier in like the e-bike market, front hub motors were pretty common, and some early like conversion kits. There was a brand called Hilltopper that probably still exists. It used to be more popular than they are now. They were like front hub motors. The Hilltoppers were pretty low powered motors. I want to say like 150 watts or something like that. So they're maybe not so bad, but you can find out there if you Google it, like images of somebody who like their fork, like the dropouts, the part of the here, I have a bike frame right here. Let's try to put this on the screen. So that is the dropout. You see the bottom of the fork where the wheel goes in. So that's made for like the forces of a normal bicycle wheel that on the front basically just spins in there. It's really not exerting a whole lot of torque on the steel there. But when you put a motor on there, that's a lot of rotational force, aka torque, going through that fork on that bike, and they just generally aren't really built for it. And so you can find plenty of images of like where the motor basically ripped the fork apart. And if that happens while you're riding, obviously pretty fucking unsafe, friends. Pretty high likelihood that your face hits the pavement. And so really not out there. Really are not. They are out there. Really not recommended. Some of the ones that are still doing it, they'll like overbuild the fork to kind of try to make it more sturdy. I would still say like go with God on that one. I don't want to work on them. QBP, which is Quality Bike Parts, which is the supplier of most like independent bike shops in the United States, get a lot of their parts from them. They actually, when I signed, so this was only a year ago, so a shop that like signed up with QBP back in like 2010, they're probably not under this restriction, but because I signed up in 2023, part of my dealer agreement, it said very clearly, I will not put their parts on a bike that has a front hub motor. If I do, I'm in violation of my agreement with them, and they can just cancel my account. So like, and then honestly, I kind of appreciate that they did that because it gives me an easy, it gives me like a higher authority to point to say like, no, I'm sorry, I can't work on this bike because, you know, QVP, well, I need QVP to stay in business. And they told me no. So there is that. But so that's to say, if you are looking at a hub drive bike, which again, a lot of those brands I cover, actually, I think all of those brands I covered last week do pretty much exclusively, if not entirely exclusively, hub motorbikes. A lot of your direct-to-consumer brands are going to be hub motorbikes. Rear wheel only. You can find some bikes out there that are double motored, that they have a motor on the front and the rear. Don't buy those bikes. Please don't buy those bikes. If you do, you don't bring them to me. I don't want them. But anyway, that's the trade-off there. And then this is like kind of a relatively minor consideration, but I just had a customer roll up, so I'm going to pause this and see what they need. 1 second. How do I do that? Hey, what can I do for you?
All right. What's your name again?
My name is Matthew. 1 second. I was actually live streaming.
I'm sorry.